Picture this. You're standing in a ballroom wearing a stained gray uniform, watching your husband kiss another woman and announce she's pregnant with his baby. That woman? Your stepsister. And in your pocket is a document where you just signed away your entire family fortune while 500 people laughed at you. Now imagine this. You're actually 4 months pregnant yourself. You own the hotel where everyone's standing. And in exactly 7 minutes, you're about to inherit $8.2 billion and destroy every single person who ever hurt you. Sounds like a revenge fantasy, right? But what you're about to hear actually follows real legal procedures, real trust laws, real FBI tactics. Because the best revenge isn't a fantasy, it's a carefully planned reality 7 years in the making. This is the story of how I spent 7 years scrubbing floors, being called crazy, and planning the most devastating public takedown in Manhattan history, all while hiding a pregnancy that could get me killed. Stick around until the end, because the final twist? Even I didn't see it coming until the moment it happened. My name is Audrey Harrington, and for the next 90 minutes, I'm going to tell you exactly how I made them pay. Trust me, you don't want to miss what happens at minute 47 when they force me to sign that paper. Or minute 62 when everything almost falls apart. Or minute 85 when I reveal the secret that destroys them forever. Let's begin. At the most exclusive charity gala in Manhattan, I stood in a stained gray uniform, watching my husband kiss my stepsister and announce they were having a baby. In my pocket was a resignation document. They wanted me to sign away my rights to the Harrington name in front of 500 witnesses. They were laughing, calling me pathetic, worthless, nothing. They didn't know I was 4 months pregnant with his child. They didn't know I owned the hotel where we stood. They didn't know that in 15 minutes I would turn 28 and inherit $8.2 billion. And they definitely didn't know that I'd spent 7 years planning to destroy every single one of them. My name is Audrey Harrington, and this is how I made them pay. But first, let me take you back to where it all began. Because revenge, real revenge, isn't born in a moment. It's cultivated over years of silent suffering, careful planning, and absolute determination to survive long enough to see justice served. 7 years ago, I was 21 years old and in my final semester at Yale Law School. I had everything: a mother who loved me, a future that sparkled with promise, and the naive belief that good people were rewarded and bad people got what they deserved. Then I got the phone call that shattered everything. "Miss Harrington, there's been an accident." My mother, Catherine Harrington, died on a rainy October night. Brake failure, they said. Her car went off the road at 60 miles per hour. She died on impact. 48 years old, brilliant, beautiful, and according to every investigator who examined the scene, a victim of tragic mechanical failure. I left Yale immediately, came home to find my father, Thomas, drowning in scotch and grief. He couldn't function, couldn't eat, could barely speak. And there, hovering at his side like a guardian angel, was Patricia. Patricia had been my mother's ICU nurse during her final 6 months. Mom had been sick, mysterious symptoms no doctor could diagnose. Fatigue, dizziness, nausea. We thought it was stress from running her pharmaceutical empire. Now I know better. Patricia was 52, with strawberry blonde hair and a perfectly maintained appearance that screamed expensive. She spoke in soft, soothing tones. She anticipated my father's needs before he voiced them. She was, everyone said, a godsend during our darkest hour. 6 months after my mother's funeral, my father married Patricia in a quiet courthouse ceremony. I should have seen the warning signs. I should have questioned why Patricia refused to leave our house even after my mother died. I should have wondered why she was so eager to comfort my grieving father. But I was drowning in my own pain, too numb to notice the predator circling my family. Patricia moved in with her 2 adult children, Caroline, who was 25, a former Miss Texas runner-up with auburn hair and an Instagram following of 400,000, and Jason, 31, a Wall Street hedge fund manager with dark hair, an aggressive personality, and what I would later learn was a serious cocaine habit. Within 3 months, Patricia suggested I needed professional help. "Your behavior is concerning, Thomas," she said softly one evening. I was in the hallway about to enter the study when I heard them. "She's not eating properly, not sleeping. I found her crying in Catherine's room at 3 in the morning. I think she needs to see someone. She's grieving, my father said, but his voice was uncertain. Patricia had already gotten him dependent on the Xanax she prescribed through her nursing contacts. I know a wonderful psychiatrist, Patricia continued, someone who specializes in depression and trauma. Audrey needs structure, simple tasks, not the pressure of finishing law school right now. That was the first nail in my coffin. The psychiatrist, Dr. Reynolds, who I later discovered was Patricia's friend and would say anything she paid him to say, diagnosed me with severe clinical depression. Recommended I take a leave from Yale, suggested that staying home, helping with household tasks, might be therapeutic. My father, medicated and manipulated, agreed to everything. Within 6 months, I had been moved from my childhood bedroom suite to the servants' quarters. Patricia said the smaller room would feel cozier for someone in my condition. My designer clothes disappeared, replaced with gray, shapeless garments that Patricia said were more appropriate for my mental state. I stopped being invited to family dinners. Patricia explained to my father that eating with the family was too stressful for me. Better if I had my meals in the kitchen after I finished serving theirs. The trap closed around me so gradually that by the time I realized what was happening, escape seemed impossible. The breaking point came 14 months after Patricia moved in. I had been cleaning Caroline's bathroom, one of my new therapeutic tasks, when I found a bottle of pills. Not prescription, something else. When I asked Caroline about it, she laughed in my face. "Mind your own business, servant girl," she said. I went to my father, tried to explain that something was wrong, that Patricia was changing everything. That I wasn't sick, I was grieving, and there was a difference. He looked at me with exhausted eyes and said, "Audrey, Patricia only wants what's best for you. Please don't make this harder than it already is." That night, Patricia called 911. She claimed I had tried to overdose, planted empty pill bottles in my bathroom. When the paramedics arrived, I was hysterical, trying to explain it was a setup, which only made me sound more unstable. They put me in a 72-hour psychiatric hold. I will never forget lying in that hospital bed, restrained, while Patricia stood in the doorway with my father. She was crying, perfect, delicate tears, telling the doctors how worried she'd been about me, how she'd tried everything, how she felt so guilty that she hadn't seen the signs earlier. My father believed every word. In that hospital room, staring at the ceiling at 3 in the morning, I made a decision that would define the next 7 years of my life. Fighting back would only prove I was unstable. Confronting Patricia directly would get me permanently committed. My father was too broken and manipulated to help me. So I would stop fighting. I would comply. I would play the role of the broken, fragile stepdaughter. I would scrub their floors and cook their meals and accept their cruelty with bowed head and silent lips. And I would wait. I asked the night orderly a simple question. "What's today's date?" "November 14th, he said. I did the math in my head. My birthday was September 9th. I had just turned 22, which meant I had 2,419 days until I turned 28. 2,419 days until I could access my mother's trust. Because 3 months after my release from that hospital, I received a message that changed everything. The message came hidden in a library book. I had taken to spending my afternoons at the public library, one of the few places Patricia allowed me to go alone. She thought I was there to read self-help books about overcoming depression. Really, I was researching inheritance law. One day I pulled a book on estate planning from the shelf and found a burner phone taped inside the cover. It rang as soon as I touched it. "Miss Harrington," said a voice I vaguely recognized. "Don't say anything. Just listen. Go to parking garage B, level 3, space 42, tonight at midnight. Come alone. Tell no one." The call disconnected. I should have been terrified, should have told someone, should have thrown the phone away. Instead, at 11:30 that night, I slipped out of the mansion through the kitchen door and drove my ancient Honda to the parking garage. James Harrison was waiting in space 42. He had been my mother's lawyer for 30 years. White-haired, dignified, the kind of old-school gentleman who still wore 3-piece suits and called women Miss. I had seen him at my mother's funeral, but not since. "Get in," he said, gesturing to his Mercedes. I climbed into the passenger seat. He pulled out a leather portfolio. Your mother suspected Patricia was dangerous, he said without preamble. She tried to fire Patricia 1 week before she died. Patricia refused to leave. Your mother was planning to have her forcibly removed when the accident happened. My blood ran cold. I think your mother left you something. Something Patricia knows about. Something worth killing for. He handed me a document. Harrington Family Trust. I scanned the pages, my hands shaking. $8.2 billion. Harrington Global, the pharmaceutical empire my mother's family had built over 4 generations. Real estate holdings, investment portfolios, everything, all of it left to me. But there's a clause, Harrison said. You cannot access any of it until you turn 28. Your mother wanted you to grow up first. Learn responsibility. She never imagined she'd die young. 28, I whispered. I just turned 22. 6 years, Harrison said. Can you survive 6 years? I thought about the servants' quarters, the gray clothes, the psychiatric hold. Patricia's cold smile. I don't have a choice, I said. Harrison reached into his jacket and pulled out an envelope. Inside was $5,000 in cash and another burner phone. Use this to hire an investigator, document everything, gather evidence. Because when you turn 28, you're not just going to inherit a fortune, you're going to destroy the people who murdered your mother. How do you know she was murdered? Harrison's face hardened. Because I found the mechanic who cut her brake lines. He's willing to talk. For a price, but we need more than his word. We need to connect him to Patricia. We need to prove she ordered it. Why are you helping me? Because Catherine was my friend. And because you're going to finish what she started. That night marked the beginning of my double life. By day, I was Audrey Sinclair, the broken stepdaughter. I scrubbed floors, I cooked meals, I accepted abuse with silence. I wore gray shapeless dresses and kept my hair scraped back in a tight bun. I took the medications Dr. Reynolds prescribed, but spit them out in the bathroom after Patricia watched me swallow them. I attended my weekly therapy sessions and spoke in a flat, defeated voice about my ongoing struggles. Patricia thought she had won, thought she had successfully crushed any spirit left in me. She had no idea what I was doing in the dark hours after midnight. I hired the investigator Harrison recommended, a former FBI agent named Paul Reeves who specialized in financial crimes. With the cash Harrison provided, Reeves started digging. Within 3 months, he found the embezzlement. Patricia had been stealing from my father's company. Small amounts at first, then increasingly larger sums. $4.2 million over 5 years, funneled through shell corporations and offshore accounts. 6 months later, Reeves discovered Caroline's scheme. She had created fake companies, submitted fraudulent invoices, and stolen $1.8 million from the family business. A year into the investigation, we confirmed Jason's money laundering operation. He was cleaning money for the Romano crime family through my father's real estate investments. But the biggest discovery came 18 months into the investigation. Patricia had a partner, a man named Richard Blackwell. Richard was 62, silver-haired, powerful. He owned half the judges in Manhattan. He had connections to politicians, police chiefs, district attorneys. He was untouchable. And he was the one who actually ordered my mother's death. Your mother owned pharmaceutical patents worth billions, Reeves explained during one of our midnight meetings. Blackwell wanted them, tried to buy them. Your mother refused, so he convinced Patricia to kill her. Promised Patricia a cut of the fortune once they gained control through your father. But my father doesn't control the trust, I said. They didn't know that. Not until after Catherine died. Patricia assumed the money would pass to your father, and she could manipulate him into giving her access. When she discovered the trust was locked until you turned 28, she panicked. That's why she started the campaign to have you declared mentally incompetent. If she could get you committed permanently, she could petition the courts to transfer trust control. My hands clenched into fists. She killed my mother for money she'll never get. Not if we can prove it, Reeves said, but we need to be smart. We need to let them think they've won. Let them get comfortable. Let them make mistakes. And when you turn 28, we'll have everything we need to bury them. So I waited. 2,400 days, then 2,000, then 1,000. I finished my law degree online, studying from midnight until dawn in the mansion's library. I graduated at the top of my class. Yale sent my diploma to Harrison's office. Patricia never knew. I also found an ally, my mother's best friend, Margaret Sullivan. Maggie was 45, a red-haired investigative journalist for the Washington Post with a reputation for taking down corrupt politicians and exposing corporate fraud. She was the only person who had questioned the official story about my mother's death. When Harrison put us in contact, Maggie became my lifeline. She had resources, connections, and a personal vendetta against Richard Blackwell, who had destroyed her career once before. "We're going to get him," she promised, "but we have to be patient, build an airtight case. And when the time comes, we don't just destroy him legally, we destroy him publicly, in front of everyone who ever covered for him." And then, 4 years into my countdown, something happened that almost derailed everything. I met Marcus Sinclair. I met Marcus at a charity fundraiser. Patricia dragged me along to serve drinks, another one of my therapeutic tasks. I was 24 years old, dressed in a plain black dress, carrying a tray of champagne flutes. Carolyn was there, holding court with her influencer friends. When she saw me, she grabbed a glass of red wine from a nearby table and accidentally spilled it all over my dress. Her friends erupted in laughter. I stood there, wine dripping down my front, face burning with humiliation. And then a voice cut through the laughter. "That was cruel, even for you, Carolyn." Marcus Sinclair was 31, tall, dark-haired, with the kind of devastating charm that made people trust him instantly. He was a venture capitalist, successful, wealthy, connected. He took my arm and led me to the coat check. "Here," he said, handing me his tuxedo jacket. "Cover up with this. Are you okay?" I should have been suspicious, should have questioned why this successful, attractive man was paying attention to the servant girl. But I was so starved for kindness, so desperate for someone to see me as human, that I believed him. "I'm fine," I said softly. "This happens a lot." "It shouldn't," Marcus said. His eyes met mine with such intensity that I felt my breath catch. "You're not what they say you are. I can see it in your eyes. You're stronger than they think." Over the next 6 months, Marcus pursued me. He would show up at the library where I studied. He would text me encouragement. He made me feel seen, valued, alive for the first time in years. Patricia noticed, of course, but instead of disapproving, she seemed pleased. "Maybe Marcus will be good for you," she said with a smile that should have warned me. "He's very successful, very stable. Maybe he can give you the structure you need." I was too blind with desperate hope to hear the calculation in her voice. Marcus proposed after 6 months. He took me to a restaurant, got down on one knee, and said all the right words about forever and building a future together. I said yes immediately, tears streaming down my face. That night, I called Harrison from my burner phone. "I'm getting married," and I told him, breathless with hope. "The trust clause about marriage—" "Audrey, wait," Harrison interrupted. "Have you read the marriage clause carefully? It says if I marry before 28, my spouse gains access to the trust. Marcus and I can access it together. We can—" "Read section 7.3, Harrison said gently. I pulled up the document on my phone. Read the clause. If beneficiary marries before age 28, spouse must have been in documented relationship with beneficiary for minimum of 24 months prior to marriage, verified by third-party witnesses, to prevent opportunistic fortune hunters. The phone slipped from my hand. 24 months, 2 years. Marcus and I had been together for 6 months. "It's an anti-gold digger clause," Harrison said quietly. "Your mother was protecting you. I'm sorry." I hung up, sat on the bathroom floor, and realized that nothing had changed. I still had 3 more years until I turned 28. The marriage didn't matter. I was still trapped. Then I made a mistake. While Marcus was in the shower, I picked up his phone. I told myself I was just checking the time, but a text notification flashed across the screen. From an unknown number. "Ushanmiyam Shumber. Is it done?" Marcus's reply, "It's done, now we wait." My blood ran cold. I navigated to his messages. Found an entire conversation thread from the month before he met me. Messages coordinating with Patricia about my schedule, my vulnerabilities, the best way to approach me. and one message that made my stomach turn. Patricia confirmed the Harrington girl is worth billions at 28. Marriage is the fastest way in, but there's a 2-year relationship requirement. Can't wait that long. She might wake up. Plan B, marry her fast, try to invalidate the clause through courts later. Caroline will keep me satisfied while I play the devoted husband. Caroline. I searched for her name in his messages, found 2 years of texts. Intimate, explicit. They had been sleeping together for 2.5 years, long before he met me. One of Caroline's messages. God, she's so pathetic. Does she really think you love her? Marcus's reply. Just 2 more years. Then we'll have billions and can bury her next to her mother. I took photos of everything, sent them to Reeves and Maggie. Then I deleted the message thread from my sent folder, put the phone back and climbed into bed. When Marcus came out of the shower, I smiled at him. I love you, I said. I love you too, he replied. And I knew I would destroy him. We married 2 weeks later in a small ceremony. Patricia insisted it be low-key, given Audrey's condition. Marcus moved into the mansion. My father, medicated and passive, barely registered what was happening. And then Marcus's mask fell off completely. Within 2 months, he was cold, dismissive, cruel. He sided with Patricia on everything. Stopped coming to our bedroom. I would later discover he was sleeping in Caroline's room. He started drinking heavily, staying out until 3 a.m, coming home reeking of perfume. But I played my role. The dutiful wife, the broken stepdaughter. I cooked his meals, cleaned his clothes, accepted his cruelty with bowed head and silent lips. And I documented everything. 1 year into the marriage, Caroline got sloppy, left her phone unlocked on the dining room table. I took photos of her messages with Marcus, explicit photos, plans, mockery of me. Caroline, should we just kill her? Stage another accident? Marcus, too risky with the trust. We need to wait until she turns 28. Once the money vests, then we can handle it. Richard says there are poisons that look like heart attacks. I sent everything to Reeves and Maggie. Then I went back to scrubbing floors. 4 months ago, everything changed again. I missed my period. I took a pregnancy test at 3 a.m. in the servant's bathroom. Stared at the 2 pink lines in complete horror. I was pregnant with Marcus's child. If Patricia, Marcus, or Caroline found out I was dead, they would force an abortion. Or worse, I called Dr. Sarah Mitchell, an OB/GYN who was one of the few doctors in my mother's social circle who had questioned Patricia's treatment of me. I had stayed in contact with her through Maggie. Dr. Mitchell agreed to see me secretly. Confirmed the pregnancy, 4 weeks along. You need to hide this, she said. If they find out, I know, I said. Can you help me? For the next 4 months, Dr. Mitchell coached me on how to hide the pregnancy, oversized gray cardigans, loose dresses, strategic posture. She told Patricia I was gaining weight from depression medication, which Patricia accepted without question. Marcus hadn't touched me in 10 months. He had no reason to suspect. I was 16 weeks pregnant, 4 months, when the worst happened. Jason cornered me in the hallway late one night. He was drunk and high on cocaine, his pupils dilated, his movements aggressive. You're still here? He sneered. God, you're like a cockroach. Why don't you just disappear already? Excuse me, I said, quietly, trying to walk past him. He grabbed my arm. I'm talking to you. Let go, I said, or what? He shoved me hard. I stumbled backward, lost my balance, fell down 8 stairs. I landed hard on my side, pain exploding through my body. Blood. There was blood. I couldn't go to the hospital. They would discover the pregnancy. Patricia would find out. I crawled to my room, called Dr. Mitchell. She came at midnight, sneaking in through the garden entrance, examined me in my bathroom by flashlight. The baby's okay, she whispered, but you're bleeding. You need to rest, no stress. If this happens again, I know, I said. I'll be more careful. After she left, I lay in bed in the dark, both hands on my stomach, and made a promise. I'm going to destroy them, I whispered. All of them, for you. 2 months later, it was time. My 28th birthday was in 1 week. Maggie and Reeves had everything ready. The FBI had been building a case against Richard Blackwell for 2 years. I had been their confidential informant, feeding them evidence about his money laundering, his political corruption, his connection to my mother's murder. Patricia thought she was still in control, thought she had broken me completely, thought the charity gala would be another opportunity to humiliate me in front of Manhattan society. She had no idea that I owned the hotel where the gala would be held, had no idea that the Harrington Family Foundation she thought she controlled was actually mine. I had founded it 6 months ago using the trust's preliminary funds, and she definitely had no idea that in 7 days, at exactly 9 o'clock at night, I would turn 28, inherit $8.2 billion, and burn her entire world to the ground. But first, she wanted one more humiliation. She wanted me to quit. The morning of the gala, Patricia burst into my room without knocking. She never knocked. I was her servant, and servants didn't deserve privacy. "The waitress called in sick," she announced. "You'll work the gala tonight." She threw a gray polyester uniform on my bed. The fabric looked scratchy and cheap. The apron was white with ruffles, designed to look as demeaning as possible. "Try not to embarrass the family," Patricia said. Again. After she left, I sat on the edge of the bed and counted. This was the 2,547th morning I had woken up in this room. The 2,547th day of playing the broken stepdaughter. Tonight was the last. At noon, I had to serve lunch to Marcus and Caroline. They were eating in bed together. They didn't even bother hiding the affair anymore. Caroline was 3 months pregnant, her tiny bump just beginning to show. She kept one hand on it possessively while she ate with the other. "Tonight we announce," Marcus said to her. "Make it official." "Finally," Caroline said. "I'm so tired of pretending. Did you see Audrey's face this morning? Like a kicked puppy." They laughed. I stood at the foot of the bed with the serving tray, invisible. As I picked up their empty plates, my hand went instinctively to my own stomach. Hidden under the oversized gray cardigan was my baby, Marcus's daughter, though he would never know until tonight, 16 weeks along, due in February. "You're dismissed," Marcus said without looking at me. I left silently. At 3 in the afternoon, Patricia summoned me to the study. Richard Blackwell was there. I had never met him in person before, though I had seen photos. Silver-haired, expensive suit, cold eyes. He looked at me the way you'd look at a cockroach. "Sit down, Audrey," Patricia said. I sat. Richard placed a document on the desk. "Voluntary resignation of all claims to Harrington family name and assets." "You'll sign this tonight," Patricia said, "at the gala, in front of everyone." "Why, Ma?" I asked softly. Patricia leaned forward. "Because you're nothing. You've always been nothing. Your mother babied you, filled your head with delusions of being special. But you're not special, Audrey. You're weak, mentally ill, incapable of managing your own life, let alone a fortune." "We're being generous," Richard added. "Sign this, and we'll give you $50,000, enough to disappear somewhere quiet. Start fresh." "And if I don't sign, I asked. "Then we'll have you committed," Patricia said. "Permanently. I have 3 psychiatrists ready to testify that you're a danger to yourself and others. Security is already arranged. You can sign the paper, or you can spend the rest of your life in a psychiatric facility. Your choice." I looked at the document, at the line where my signature would go. "I'll sign," I said quietly. Patricia smiled. "Good girl. We'll do it before dinner. Nice and public, so everyone knows you went willingly." After they dismissed me, I went back to my room, locked the door, and opened the hidden panel behind the bathroom toilet. Inside was a Louis Vuitton garment bag. My mother's. I unzipped it carefully. Inside was the vintage 1962 Chanel gown my mother had worn to her last charity gala before she died. Black silk with an empire waist, perfect for hiding a pregnancy. I had altered it slightly to fit me. Next to the gown was $4 million in diamonds. My mother's Art Deco necklace, 90 carats of diamonds in a geometric pattern that caught the light like frozen stars. Matching earrings, a bracelet, all of it from the Harrington family collection. And at the bottom of the bag, a small bottle, Chanel No. 5, my mother's signature scent. I pulled out my burner phone. Messages from Maggie and Reeves confirmed everything was ready. FBI entering building at 9 p.m., Maggie had written. DA standing by. Arrest warrants are signed. It's go time. I texted back. See you at midnight, Cinderella. Then I looked at my watch. 6 hours until I turned 28. 6 hours until everything changed. I put on the gray uniform, scraped my hair back into the tight bun Patricia insisted on. No makeup, no jewelry. I looked in the mirror and barely recognized myself. Just a few more hours, I whispered to my reflection. Then never again. I placed one hand on my stomach. You ready, baby? Let's go meet your family. At 7:30, I entered the Grand Regency Hotel through the service entrance. The ballroom was breathtaking. Crystal chandeliers, white roses everywhere. 500 guests in designer gowns and expensive tuxedos. Everyone who was anyone in Manhattan society, and I owned all of it. 6 months ago, using the Trust's preliminary access funds, I had purchased the Grand Regency through a shell corporation. Patricia had insisted on hosting the charity gala here because it was the most prestigious venue in the city, and she had no idea every marble column, every piece of silverware, every bottle of champagne belonged to me. The Harrington Family Foundation, the charity everyone was donating to tonight, was also mine. I had founded it in February using my real name, with the foundation's stated mission being helping abused victims escape dangerous situations and rebuild their lives. The irony was not lost on me. Patricia arrived at 8, dressed in a red Valentino gown that probably cost $45,000, money she had stolen from my father's company. She was surrounded by her friends, women who had known my mother, who had attended her funeral, who now laughed with the woman who killed her. Carolyn arrived next in champagne silk, her baby bump prominently displayed. Marcus walked beside her, his hand possessively on her waist. They looked perfect together. The venture capitalist and the influencer. Power couple of the year. My father sat alone at the family table, already on his third scotch. Salt and pepper hair, broken eyes, a shell of the man who had once run a successful company. Patricia had destroyed him as thoroughly as she had destroyed me, just in a different way. And then I saw Richard Blackwell at the VIP table, surveying the room like a king surveying his kingdom. Untouchable, powerful, not for much longer. At 8 o'clock, Patricia spotted me. "Oh, Audrey," she called out loudly, "come serve my friends." I walked over with my tray of champagne. Patricia's friends, Margaret Chen, Diane Foster, Susan Walsh, all mothers who had known my mother, smiled as I approached. Patricia took a glass, then maintaining eye contact with me, deliberately dropped it. Crystals shattered on marble. Champagne splashed across my shoes. "Oh dear," Patricia said. "How clumsy of me. Clean that up, won't you?" I knelt on the floor with a cloth, wiped up champagne while they towered over me, talking and laughing as if I weren't there. "Is that really Catherine Harrington's daughter?" someone whispered. "How tragic," another voice said. "Mental illness runs in families, you know." I checked my watch while I wiped. 8:05, 55 minutes. At 8:20, Caroline dragged me over to her influencer friends. Emma, Sophia, Isabella, all daughters of old money, all with perfect makeup and perfect clothes and perfect lives. Caroline put her arm around me, pulled me close, and took a selfie. I was clearly visible in the background in my gray uniform, hair scraped back, exhausted. She posted it immediately. I saw the screen. Even Cinderella worked the ball, followed by laughing emojis and hashtags. "You're viral, sis," Caroline showed me her phone. 1,847 likes in 90 seconds. "Well, you're the viral joke." My hand went instinctively to my stomach. Caroline noticed. "Ugh, are you getting fat too? Depression really ages you." If only she knew. At 8:35, Marcus stood up, tapped his crystal glass with a knife. The room went quiet. "Everyone," he said with his devastating charm, "Caroline and I have wonderful news to share." He put his arm around Caroline, his hand on her bump. "We're expecting a baby." The room erupted in applause. People surged forward to congratulate them. Patricia beamed with pride. No one questioned that Marcus was married to me. Patricia had told everyone we had quietly divorced. I stood in the corner with my empty tray and felt my own baby kick. It was the first time. 16 weeks, The textbooks said babies started kicking around then, and mine chose this exact moment, watching her father celebrate another woman's pregnancy. A single tear ran down my cheek. I wiped it away quickly, checked my watch. 73 minutes. Hold on, I told myself. Just hold on a little longer. At 8:47, Patricia stood and took the microphone from the MC. Before dinner, she announced to the room, "I have a brief family matter to address." She looked directly at me, smiled that cold smile. "Audrey, please come to the stage." The room went quiet. 500 pairs of eyes turned to watch me walk forward, still carrying my serving tray. I climbed the stairs to the stage. My hands were shaking, but not from fear, from anticipation. Patricia's voice was warm and concerned, a masterclass in false compassion. "My stepdaughter Audrey has struggled for so many years. We've tried everything, therapy, medication, endless patience. But tonight she's made the brave decision to step away from the burden of the Harrington name." Richard Blackwell appeared with the resignation papers, placed them on a podium. Patricia continued, "Sometimes the kindest thing we can do for someone is release them from expectations they could never meet. Audrey, please, sign here." Fine. Marcus was smirking at his table. Carolyn had her phone out, filming. This would be content gold for her Instagram. I looked at the document. Voluntary resignation of all claims to Harrington family name and assets. Patricia leaned close, whispered in my ear, "Sign it. Security is at every exit. Sign or they'll take you to the psychiatric facility tonight. You'll never leave." I took the pen. My hands stopped shaking. I signed in my mother's perfect script, Audrey Catherine Harrington. The room was silent. Then Caroline posted the video. Marcus raised his glass. Patricia's friends whispered to each other. They were all smiling, laughing. Finally, the broken stepdaughter knew her place. "I'm glad we have witnesses," I said quietly. Patricia frowned. "What?" "Nothing," I said. "May I be excused?" Patricia waved me away like I was a fly. Annoying but ultimately inconsequential. I walked toward the service hallway. Every step was measured, controlled. I checked my watch. 8:51, 9 minutes. Behind me, I could hear them laughing. Heard Caroline telling her friends, "That was the most pathetic thing I've ever seen." Heard Marcus say to my father, "You should be relieved. She would have destroyed the family reputation." My father said nothing, just drank his scotch. I pushed open the service bathroom door, locked it behind me. For 2,547 days, I had worn gray. For 7 years, I had been invisible. For 84 months, I had scrubbed their floors, cooked their meals, accepted their cruelty. Tonight, it ended. I stripped off the uniform. It was the 2,547th time putting on something gray and shapeless. And the last. The shower was quick. Hot water washing away years of invisible stains. I watched the water swirl down the drain and imagined it carrying away every humiliation, every moment of powerlessness, every tear I had swallowed in silence. Then I opened the garment bag. The Chanel gown slid over my skin like liquid silk. Empire waist perfect for hiding my 4-month pregnancy. The fabric was black, vintage, elegant. My mother had worn this to her last gala before she died. It still smelled faintly of her perfume. I put on the diamonds, $4 million of Harrington family jewelry. The Art Deco necklace, 90 carats that caught the light and threw it back in geometric patterns. Matching earrings, bracelet. I took down my hair. Golden blonde waves fell to my shoulders, just like my mother's. Applied her signature red lipstick, Chanel Rouge Allure in Pirate. Sprayed her Chanel No. 5 on my wrists, my neck. Then I looked in the mirror. I looked exactly like my mother at 28. I placed both hands on my barely showing belly. "Mom," I whispered, "if you can see this, I'm sorry it took so long, but I'm ready now." "We're ready." I checked my phone, 8:58. Text from Maggie, FBI entering building, go time. I texted back, "Happy birthday" to me. At 8:59, I stood at the bathroom door, took one deep breath, and at exactly 9 o'clock I walked out. But I didn't use the service entrance. I walked through the main ballroom doors, the ones reserved for VIP guests. Everything stopped. The orchestra stopped mid-note. 500 conversations halted mid-sentence. Crystal glasses froze halfway to lips. Every single person turned to look. The whispers started immediately, rippling through the crowd like wildfire. Who is that? My God, she looks like Catherine Harrington. Wait, that can't be. Is that Audrey? I walked down the center aisle toward the stage. My heels clicked on marble. The sound echoed in the absolutely silent room. Patricia's champagne glass slipped from her hand, shattered on the floor, her face drained of all color. Carolyn stood up from her chair, mouth hanging open. Marcus rose slowly, confused. Audrey? My father looked up from his scotch. His eyes went wide. Tears immediately started streaming down his face. Catherine, he whispered. He genuinely saw his dead wife for a moment. I climbed the stage stairs, took the microphone from the MC, who was too shocked to resist, smiled at the audience. Good evening, everyone, I said. My voice was clear, strong, nothing like the broken whisper they were used to. I'm Audrey Harrington. Pause. Let them process. As of exactly 9 o'clock tonight, I am 28 years old. Confused murmurs swept the room. Which means, according to my mother, Catherine's ironclad trust, I am now the sole owner and CEO of Harrington Global. $8.2 billion in assets. The explosion of shock was physical. Gasps, shouts, people pulling out phones. Patricia screamed, "That's impossible!" I smiled at her. Is it? James Harrison stepped onto the stage beside me. He carried a leather portfolio embossed with the Harrington family crest. I can confirm, he said in his formal lawyer voice, Miss Audrey Catherine Harrington is the sole legal heir to the Harrington estate. As of 9 o'clock this evening, the trust has fully vested. The room erupted. Questions shouted from every direction. Phones out, recording everything. I let the chaos build for a moment. Then I raised my hand. Silence fell immediately. That includes this hotel, I said, gesturing around us. The Grand Regency. I purchased it 6 months ago through Harrington Real Estate Holdings. More gasps. Patricia was shaking her head, denying reality. The Harrington Medical Center, where several of you serve on the board. People were pulling out phones, frantically Googling. Harrington Pharmaceuticals, which employs 12,000 people. I paused for effect. And the Harrington Family Foundation, the charity you're all donating to tonight. I founded it in February in my mother's memory. Every single dollar you gave tonight goes toward helping abuse victims escape dangerous situations and rebuild their lives. The applause started slowly, then built. People standing up, some crying. The irony wasn't lost on them. But Patricia wasn't done. She pushed through the crowd toward the stage, her face purple with rage. This is fraud. She's mentally ill. I have documentation. Documentation from Dr. Reynolds? I asked calmly. The psychiatrist you paid to diagnose me, the one who wrote prescriptions for medications I never actually took. I nodded to the screens around the ballroom. They lit up with bank records. Here are the payments you made to Dr. Reynolds. $50,000 over 7 years to maintain my diagnosis, to keep me medicated and compliant. Patricia's mouth opened and closed like a fish. And here, I continued as the screens changed, are the records from Yale Law School, showing that I completed my degree online, graduated top of my class 3 years ago, while you all thought I was too mentally ill to function. The crowd murmured. Some people were actually smiling now, but then Marcus stood up. He was smooth, always so smooth under pressure. That's what made him dangerous. Everyone, he said with his devastating charm, walking toward the stage. There's been a misunderstanding. He climbed the stairs, all confidence. Audrey and I are married, which means legally I'm entitled to half of... I laughed. It was cold, sharp, cutting. Oh, Marcus, you're absolutely right, if the marriage was legitimate. The screens changed again, this time showing a document. Harrington Family Trust, Clause 7.3, I read aloud. If beneficiary marries before age 28, spouse must have been in documented relationship with beneficiary for a minimum of 24 months prior to marriage, verified by third-party witnesses, to prevent opportunistic fortune hunters. Marcus's face went white. We dated for 6 months before our wedding, but I continued. Not 24. The marriage clause never applied. You never had any claim to the trust. That's, Marcus started. And just so everyone understands why that clause exists, I interrupted, let me show you something. The screens changed again. Showed handwritten journal pages. Marcus's journal. I'd had Reeves photograph it during one of our evidence gathering sessions. Met with Patricia today, I read his own words aloud. She confirmed the Harrington girl is worth billions at 28. Marriage is the fastest way in, but there's a 2-year relationship requirement. Can't wait that long, she might wake up. Plan B, marry her fast, try to invalidate the clause through courts later. Caroline will keep me satisfied while I play the devoted husband. Once the money's mine, we'll handle Audrey permanently. Richard says there are ways. The room exploded, women gasping in horror, men shouting, cameras flashing. Marcus tried to speak. That's not, it's dated March 15th, 4 years ago, I said calmly. 3 weeks before you accidentally met me at that fundraiser, when Caroline accidentally spilled wine on me and you rescued me. Caroline was crying now, mascara running down her face. Marcus looked at her desperately. Caroline screamed. You said you loved me. You said after the money we'd... Oh, Caroline, I said softly. He never loved either of us. Check the next page. The screen changed. Another journal entry. Caroline thinks we'll get married after I secure the Harrington fortune. Adorable. She's useful for now, but she's too stupid and too public. Once I have the money, I'll need someone with class. Maybe that attorney from the Parker firm. The brunette. Carolyn collapsed into her chair, sobbing. The crowd was in complete chaos now. Some people looked horrified. Others looked satisfied. They had never liked Marcus or Caroline anyway. But I wasn't done, because Richard Blackwell was still sitting calmly at his VIP table, still smiling slightly, still thinking he could control this. And that was his fatal mistake. Richard stood slowly. Every eye in the room turned to him. Miss Harrington, he said in that smooth lawyer voice, this is quite the show. He walked toward the stage with absolute confidence, like he owned the room, like he owned the whole city. But I'm afraid you've made a critical error. He pulled out his phone, held it up so everyone could see the screen. It showed a video, me meeting with people in suits, federal agents clearly. The footage was grainy but unmistakable. This video, Richard said loudly, along with others I've collected over the past 6 months, shows Miss Harrington meeting with individuals and discussing how to fabricate evidence, frame innocent people, destroy reputations with manufactured accusations. He looked directly at the FBI agents who had just entered the ballroom. They were there for Audrey's planned arrests, but Richard was trying to turn this around. Officers, Richard continued, I'm an attorney at law. I represent the Harrington family. I have evidence that this woman has been planning a massive fraud scheme. She should be arrested immediately for conspiracy, wire fraud, and defamation. The crowd was in chaos again. Some people looked uncertain now. Could this all be fake? Patricia stood up, triumphant. She's insane, just like we always said. She faked everything. Marcus jumped in. She probably wrote those journal entries herself. She's been obsessed with destroying us. The FBI agents looked at each other uncertainly. Richard pressed his advantage. I have 6 months of surveillance footage, audio recordings. She's been conspiring with that journalist, he pointed at Maggie, to destroy this family with lies, the manufactured evidence. My hands trembled slightly on the microphone. For just a moment, just one brief moment, I let fear show on my face, let them think they'd won. The audience saw it. Richard saw it. Patricia saw it. They thought they had beaten me. Then I stopped shaking, stood up straight, and started laughing. Soft at first, then louder. The room went silent, confused. Mr. Blackwell, I said, that's fascinating. Please, show everyone your surveillance footage. Richard hesitated, just for a second. No, really, I insisted. I want them to see it. I pulled out my phone, because here's footage from the actual warehouse where you filmed me. The ballroom screens changed. It showed Richard's surveillance operation, but from a different angle. A wider angle, it showed Maggie Sullivan standing there. But she wasn't tied up or in danger. She was standing with 12 FBI agents, all of them watching Richard's hidden cameras, all of them waving at the camera. Maggie's voice came through the speakers. "Hi, Richard. Thanks for the 6 months of documented federal crimes." The crowd gasped. "For 6 months," I said calmly, "Mr. Blackwell has been illegally surveilling me, tapping my phones, recording my meetings with federal investigators. Federal investigators I've been working with as a confidential informant against him." FBI Special Agent Jennifer Martinez stepped onto the stage. Tall, professional, carrying handcuffs. "Richard Blackwell," she said formally, "you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder, wire fraud, illegal surveillance, and obstruction of justice." Richard's face finally showed fear. He tried to run. Didn't make it 3 steps before agents tackled him. His phone, with all his evidence, was seized immediately. "We've been waiting for you to use that tonight," Agent Martinez said. "You just confessed to 6 months of federal crimes in front of 500 witnesses." Richard, face down on the marble floor with his hands cuffed behind his back, was shouting about lawyers, about judges he owned, about how they couldn't do this to him. "Funny thing," I said, looking down at him. "Turns out when you murder a billionaire, the FBI takes a personal interest. They've been building a case against you for 2 years. I was just the bait." Patricia tried to run for the exit. "Patricia," I called out, "don't you want to stay for the rest of the show?" She froze. I walked to the edge of the stage, looked directly at Patricia. "7 years ago, you murdered my mother." The room went completely silent. "You paid a mechanic named Danny Flores $50,000 to cut her brake lines." Patricia was shaking her head frantically. "That's a lie. That's—" The screens lit up with evidence. Bank transfer from Patricia's hidden account to Danny Flores. $50,000. Dated October 12th, 7 years ago. 6 days before my mother died. Text messages between Patricia and Richard. "It's done. Brake lines cut. Rain tonight should cover any evidence." "Good. Once she's gone, we control everything through the husband." Hospital security footage showing Patricia in the parking garage, accessing my mother's car the night before the accident. And finally, a video. Danny Flores, the mechanic, sitting in an FBI interview room. His voice played through the speakers. "Patricia Ashford came to me in October, said she needed a car to have an accident, brake failure. Made it look mechanical. She paid me $50,000 in cash. I didn't know who the target was until I saw the news. Catherine Harrington, and I've been living with that guilt for 7 years. I'm ready to testify." The room erupted, people screaming, some crying. Patricia was shaking her head over and over. No, that's fake. She faked all of it." "We have the mechanic in protective custody," Agent Martinez said. "He's been cooperating for 3 months. We have phone records, financial records, testimony from multiple witnesses." I walked down the stage stairs, walked right up to Patricia. "You killed my mother for $8.2 billion. My voice was quiet now, deadly calm. "But you didn't know about the trust clause. Didn't know the money was locked in until I turned 28. So you got nothing. You tortured me for 7 years, made me a servant in my own home, tried to have me committed permanently, all for money you were never going to get." I looked her straight in the eyes. "You murdered my mother and got 25 years in prison instead." I'd say that's a bad indictment. The agents moved in. Patricia lunged at me, screaming, "You ungrateful bitch! I gave you a home, The officers grabbed her, pulled her back. She was still screaming as they handcuffed her. "Richard, tell them! Tell them she's lying!" Richard, also in handcuffs, just looked at her with disgust. "Shut up, you idiot!" Patricia's face crumbled as she realized he wasn't saving her, that he had never cared about her. She had just been a tool. As they led her away, she locked eyes with me one last time. I smiled. "Enjoy prison," I said softly. Carolyn tried to slip out during the chaos. "Caroline," I called, "don't you want to know about the embezzlement?" She froze. The screens changed again. Financial records. Shell companies in Caroline's name. Fake invoices. Forged signatures. 1.8 million stolen from my father's company over 4 years. You weren't even clever about it, I said. You used your actual birthday as the password for the offshore accounts. February 14th. Really? Carolyn was crying, 7 months pregnant, as FBI agents approached her with handcuffs. Please, she sobbed, I'm pregnant. You can't. You'll get proper prenatal care in custody, Agent Martinez said firmly but not unkindly. We've already arranged it. As they led Caroline away, she looked at Marcus. This is your fault. You said, don't, Marcus snapped. Just don't. Now it was his turn. Marcus was still standing near the stage. He looked smaller now, less confident. I walked toward him slowly. I loved you, I said quietly. Did you know that? When we first met, I actually loved you. Audrey, please, Marcus said. We can talk about this. We can. But here's what's interesting. I pulled out my phone, showed him a photo, an engagement ring, platinum band, 3-carat diamond. This is the ring you bought 2 weeks before you met me. The receipt is dated March 3rd. We met March 18th. I zoomed in on the receipt. It's size for a woman's ring finger. Size 6. Caroline's size, not mine. I'm a size 7. Marcus couldn't speak. You were already engaged to her. The whole romance was theater. You married me while engaged to another woman. I looked at Agent Martinez. That's bigamy and conspiracy to commit fraud. She nodded. But that's not why he's going to prison. 2 other agents opened Marcus's laptop. They had seized it from his car in the parking lot an hour ago. We found detailed plans to poison Audrey Harrington, Agent Martinez said, purchased oleander extract, researched dosage levels that would mimic heart failure. You were planning to kill her the week after her 28th birthday, after the trust vested. The crowd gasped in horror. Marcus was shaking his head. That's not, I was just researching. You Googled undetectable heart attack poisons on March 3rd, I said. The same day you bought Caroline's engagement ring. The same day you met with Patricia to plan our chance encounter at the fundraiser. You've been planning my murder for 4 years. The agents moved in with handcuffs. Marcus didn't say anything as they cuffed him, just stared at me with pure hatred in his eyes. As they led him away, I called out, "Oh, and Marcus, one more thing." He stopped, looked back. I placed both hands on my stomach. I'm 4 months pregnant with your daughter. The room went completely silent. You could hear 500 people holding their breath. I'm 4 months pregnant, I repeated, with Marcus's daughter. Patricia, being led away in handcuffs, started screaming. No, you can't be. We would have noticed. I've been hiding it, I said calmly, because I knew if any of you found out, I'd be dead within a week. I walked back to the stage. The crowd parted for me. But here's the beautiful part, I continued. My mother's trust has a codicil, clause 11.7. If I have a child, that child becomes co-heir at birth. The screen showed the clause, which means in 5 months, my daughter, Catherine Eleanor Harrington, will inherit $4.1 billion. I looked directly at Marcus, being held by agents near the door. And you, Marcus, will never touch a single penny of it, because you'll be in prison for the next 18 years. Marcus collapsed, literally fell to his knees, started sobbing. The agents had to drag him out. Dr. Sarah Mitchell stepped onto the stage beside me. I can confirm, she said professionally, Audrey Harrington is 16 weeks pregnant, healthy pregnancy, all prenatal testing normal. Due date is February 14th. The room erupted in applause. People were crying, cheering, some were standing. But I wasn't done, because my father was still sitting at the family table, staring at me with tears streaming down his face. He stood slowly. He stood, walked toward the stage on unsteady legs. Audrey, he said, his voice was broken. Baby, I didn't know about your mother. I swear to God, I didn't, but you knew about me, I said quietly. He climbed the stage stairs, reached for me. I stepped back. You watched them destroy me every single day for 7 years. I was weak, he sobbed. I missed your mother so much, and you said nothing when they moved me to the servants' quarters, I continued. You said nothing when they made me clean their floors. You said nothing when Patricia slapped me at dinner. You said nothing when I served you meals like I was hired help. And you did absolutely nothing. I pulled a document from Harrison's portfolio, handed it to my father. This is a restraining order. You're not allowed within 500 feet of me or any Harrington property. His hands shook as he took it. You're also removed from all positions in Harrington Global, effective immediately. You'll receive your pension and health benefits, but you're done. Please, he whispered, you're all I have left. I'm not pressing charges against you, I said. You were manipulated. Patricia targeted you when you were vulnerable, but you were also a coward. You let them destroy your daughter because it was easier than standing up to them. I looked him in the eyes. Now you'll have to live with that. He fell to his knees. Right there on the stage in front of 500 people, I walked away without looking back. Agent Martinez finished reading the charges. Patricia, conspiracy to commit first-degree murder, embezzlement, fraud, 25 years minimum. Richard, first-degree murder, conspiracy, wire fraud, illegal surveillance, life without parole. Carolyn, embezzlement, fraud, 7 years, would give birth in prison. Jason, money laundering, assault of a pregnant woman, racketeering, 12 years. Marcus, conspiracy to commit murder, attempted murder, bigamy, fraud, 18 years. All of them let out in handcuffs. All of them destroyed in front of everyone who mattered. The gala dissolved into chaos. People crying, talking, filming everything. I stood on the stage, both hands on my stomach, and breathed. Maggie appeared beside me. You did it. We did it, I corrected. Harrison approached with papers. Everything's been transferred. As of 9:03 tonight, you have full control of Harrington Global, $8.2 billion, all of it yours. I looked out at the ballroom, at the crystal chandeliers I owned, at the marble columns I owned, at the future I had fought for. The Catherine Harrington Foundation, I said. How many applications do we have? 200 women on the waiting list, Maggie said. We can open 3 more shelters by next month, maybe 5 by spring. Do it, I said. Whatever they need, however much it costs. I looked down at my stomach, at the daughter Marcus would never meet, at the future I was building for both of us. Your grandmother would be so proud, I whispered. 6 months later, February 14th, Valentine's Day. My penthouse overlooked Central Park. Floor-to-ceiling windows showed snow falling over Manhattan. The city looked clean and white and new. I sat in a nursing chair holding my newborn daughter, Catherine Eleanor Harrington, born at 6:30 this morning. 7 pounds, 3 ounces. Perfect. She had my blonde hair and blue eyes, and when she looked at me, I saw my mother's face. Maggie walked in carrying coffee. Board meeting in 10 minutes. You ready? Always, I said. Maggie was now editor-in-chief of the Harrington Foundation Press, overseeing all our communications and advocacy work. The first shelter opened last week, she said. 50 beds. We already have a waiting list of 200 more women. The second shelter opens next month. How many total can we help this year, I asked. If we stay on track, maybe 5,000 women and children. I looked down at Catherine. Then let's exceed the track. Harrison appeared in the doorway. The board is assembled. They're ready when you are. I stood carefully. My body was still recovering from childbirth. I handed Catherine to Maggie. I'll be back in an hour, I told my daughter. Grandma Maggie's got you. As I walked toward the conference room, I caught my reflection in a mirror. I was wearing a black suit, my mother's pearl necklace, my hair down. I looked like Catherine Harrington, like a CEO, like someone who had survived 7 years of hell and come out stronger. The conference room fell silent when I entered. 15 board members, all of them older than me, all of them men except for 2. They had been skeptical when I took over 6 months ago. Thought I was too young, too inexperienced. Just a trust fund baby who got lucky. They didn't know what I'd survived to get here. Good morning, I said, taking my seat at the head of the table. Let's begin. We discussed quarterly earnings, pharmaceutical development, real estate investments. I had spent 6 months learning every aspect of my mother's empire, had worked 18-hour days, had proven myself to every skeptic. Harrington Global was thriving, stock up 23%, 12,000 employees, growing. After the meeting, I returned to the penthouse. My assistant, Jessica, was there with coffee. She set down a tray and accidentally knocked over a glass. It shattered on the floor. I flinched, hard, entire body tensing. Catherine started crying. Maggie and Jessica exchanged concerned looks. "I'm okay," I said quickly. Picked up Catherine, held her close. "I'm okay," but my hands were shaking. "Audrey," Maggie said gently, "Dr. Chen is still waiting for you to schedule another appointment." Dr. Chen was my therapist, specialized in PTSD. "I'll call her tomorrow," I said. "You said that last week." I looked at Maggie, at her concerned face, at the broken glass on the floor. "Every day is a little better," I said. "Right?" "Right," Maggie said. "But you don't have to do this alone." I nodded. "Tomorrow, I promise." After they left, I stood at the window with Catherine. The city stretched out below us. Manhattan, the city I now help shape with my foundation's work, with Harrington Global's resources, with the future I was building. "You know what they did to me?" I said softly to Catherine. "They tried to make me nothing, tried to erase who I was, tried to break me so completely that I'd forget I was Catherine Harrington's daughter." Catherine made a small sound, her tiny hand wrapped around my finger. "But they forgot something," I continued. "They forgot that endurance is its own kind of strength, that surviving is its own kind of victory, that sometimes the person they think is broken is really just gathering her power for the moment she can use it." I thought about Patricia in prison, about Richard dying there, about Marcus with 16 more years on his sentence, about Caroline giving birth in custody. Her daughter had been adopted by Patricia's estranged sister, and I had quietly set up a $2 million education trust for the child, because children don't choose their parents. I thought about my father living alone in a small apartment across town. We had lunch once a month now. It was awkward, painful, but slowly he was becoming sober, going to therapy, trying to earn back some small piece of my respect. I didn't know if I would ever fully forgive him, but I was willing to let him try. "Your grandfather made mistakes," I told Catherine. "Terrible mistakes, but he's working to fix them now. That's all any of us can do, right? Work to fix our mistakes." I looked back at the city. "They laughed when I signed that resignation paper," I said. "When I walked away from them for the last time in my gray uniform, they thought I was finally admitting defeat, thought I was nothing. They didn't know I was walking toward everything." I held Catherine closer. My empire, my truth, my freedom, my daughter. The snow was falling harder now, covering the city in white, clean, new, full of possibility. "To anyone out there who's being treated like they're nothing," I said softly, "your time will come. You don't need to wait for an inheritance. You don't need a lawyer or a journalist friend. You just need to survive. One more day, one more year, however long it takes. Because the person pouring your coffee might own the building. The servant in the gray dress might be a billionaire in disguise. And the woman they laughed at, she might just change the world." Catherine yawned. Her eyes fluttered closed. I carried her to the nursery, laid her in her crib, The room was painted soft yellow, filled with light. On the wall hung a portrait of my mother, Catherine Harrington at 28 years old, the same age I was now. "We did it, Mom," I whispered. "We survived. We fought back. We won. And now we're going to make sure no one else has to fight alone." I kissed Catherine's forehead, turned on the baby monitor, and went back to my office. I had work to do, women to help, a future to build. They had tried to destroy me. Instead, they gave me a reason to survive. And surviving, so I'm really surviving means building something better than what came before. I sat at my desk, opened my laptop, started reviewing shelter applications. Outside, snow fell on Manhattan. Inside, Catherine Eleanor Harrington slept peacefully. And Audrey Harrington, former servant, former invisible girl, former victim, got back to work. Because the best revenge isn't destruction. It's building something beautiful from the ashes. And I had a whole empire to build.